One of the Wyopreps Games of the week takes us to Class 1A 9-man, and it's a big showdown between two teams ranked in our top 5 of our Wyopreps Coaches and Media Football poll. It is Southeast at Pine Bluffs, and visiting with Southeast head coach Mark Bullington. And Mark, thanks so much for the time. But talk a little bit about you guys lost your first game, but here you are in a nice little role coming in. How do you feel about your team right here before you get to the playoffs?
Well, I think the big thing is we're starting to believe in ourselves. I think we had a little doubt to start the season, and it kind of bit us in the butt there. But I think we're finally deciding, hey, we can play with people. Coaches and I have talked earlier in the season. We could beat anybody, or we could get beat by anybody. So how that goes in high school football. Yeah.
What do you think's changed in the kids' mind?
I think just with the new quarterback. Desmond, he's a sophomore, never played a lot last year. So I think he's finally learning the whole system. We moved a lot of people around. I had my tailback used to be a guard last year. So we had a lot of kids out of place. So, just getting to know the system and feeling comfortable with the system.
Yeah, obviously year-to-year changes in high school football. You talked about Aiden Desmond. What are you seeing in his development as the season's gone along and trying to spread the ball around to different playmakers, whether it's Campbell in the run game, Short, who's made some great plays out of receiver, and other guys? What have you seen in him trying to spread it around?
I think the big thing is, he's getting, like I said, he's getting some confidence in himself. He's getting a little time. He's got a cannon. He can throw the ball a long ways, and he's still young, and he's learning. He's learning as we go. So, we're building the ship as we're flying it. So,
has there been anything else that you look at and say, besides confidence, I can point to this or that's really spurred on this win streak and got you playing at a high level?
Well, I think it's our coaching staff and our kids, but a lot of kudos to Coach Burkhardt. He's been my D coordinator for 20 some years, and studies a lot of film, and he does a great job of shutting people down. I've had people call me about games that we've had great defensive stance, and I went, well, his number's 5-3-2. so I think that's a big thing. If we can score points, but we have to keep other people from scoring a buku bunches of points. So I think that's a big thing. And our coaching staff, we have 2 new guys that have been are new to the system. And so, they're in their second year, it's a learning curve for them also.
Gotcha.
Even though they've been around forever. I coached both those kids when they were in junior high, and they're 50 some years old now. So
you're dating yourself there, Mark, a little bit.
I know.
Besides that, though, boy, Pine Bluffs has been really dominant this year, both sides of the ball. What do you see when you see Coach Gray's squad?
Well, they just have so many weapons, and Will does a great job of scheming people and formation you to death. And then, they could have left that Schaefer kid home a couple more weeks, so it'd be really nice. But I see he's back, and the quarterback, the Lerwick kid, I've coached against a lot of quarterbacks, and he's one of the better ones I've ever seen. He does a great job. I think.
So how do you go about containing those guys?
I don't know if you contain them, you just kind of slow them down a little bit,
Yeah.
And you can't make mistakes. That's the big thing.
Okay.
That's what I think we had with Lingle, is we had to keep them from making the big plays. They were scoring big and quick and often. So I think it's the big thing is we just you got to contain them a little bit. You're not going to keep them from scoring. You're not going to keep Lerwick from throwing the ball. So they've got a lot of weapons.
Big key might be keeping your offense on the field, and then at the same time, if you don't score, having them drive long fields, right?
Yeah. Well, it's that way in any high school football. If you make people drive 80 yards, somebody's going to make a mistake at either side of the ball, and that's the big thing. We just can't give up the big plays, the home runs, the out and ups, and things of that sort. So,
gotcha.
That's our big focus.
All right, talk a little bit about, do you like, or how much do you like maybe a big test like this before you get to the playoffs? This is almost like you're going to get a home playoff game as the 1 or 2 seed next week. But do you like this type of test to get you ready from what you haven't seen from the west side in a while?
Well, yeah, there's not going to be any game from here on out. There's not an easy game, when you start getting the playoffs. And so, yeah, it's going to be a big test for us. There's no better time than right now. I mean, I'd like to be it in 3 or 4 weeks, but we don't get that. We don't get that luxury. So we better, step up now because, they're not going to get any easier.
Right. How do you go about, because you've been around this game a long time, longer than me, how do you go about just stressing the guys that this is just another game, even though it's a big rivalry and the old CWAC against Pine Bluffs, these kids know each other, played against each other for a long time. How do you go about just kind of relaying the message, hey, guys, it is just another game, even though there's a lot at stake in terms of conference and bragging rights, but just go out and have fun, play football.
Yeah, that's what we tell these kids. We have the 3 seniors. I said, go out and have some fun. This game is. I always say this game's it's a simple game made complicated by coaches. But I think the big thing we've been stressed in the last 3 or 4 weeks, it's still blocking, tackling, assignment, alignment, and that's the whole thing behind the game. We can do all the X's and the O's, and as old Coach Bill Fulmer from Burns used to say, it's not the X's and O's. Sometimes it's the Jimmies and the Joes. So, but yeah, we're just stressing blocking, running, and tackling. That's the game right now.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for your brief time. Wish you best of luck at Pine Bluffs on Friday.
Okay. Thanks, Dave.
One of our WyoPreps games of the week is a big showdown in Class 1A 9-man over in the East as top-ranked Pine Bluffs takes on 5th-ranked Southeast, and visiting with the head coach of the Pine Bluffs Hornets, that is Will Gray. And Will, thanks so much for taking a few minutes of your time to chat with me. Talk a little bit about where you're sitting right now, here, right at the end of the regular season. Obviously, you're trying to lock down the top seed in the playoffs and give yourself a couple of home playoff games. But how do you feel like your team's playing right now?
Well, first, thanks for having us. It's always good to come on air and talk about our kids. We feel good with where we're at. But with that said, Southeast, they always play us traditionally very, very well. Coach Bullington and Coach Burkhart always have a good plan. Sometimes it's unconventional. They're good at thinking outside the box. So today's practice, like we're going to go prep for 15 different things we might see, and kind of narrow it down and see what we like and see what we don't like. But we feel like we're sitting good. But as coaches, we're always looking to get better. You can't take anything for granted.
Understand that. I got to ask you the question. You guys didn't quite make it to where you wanted to last year. Has that been kind of a motivation, a little bit of a mission for this group this year, you think, Will?
No, I don't think so. Last year was last year. We have a lot of guys back from that team. They know that the end of the year sucked, and they did what they could to make up for it in the spring and the summer and even during the winter playing basketball. So it's in the past. That's not even something we talk about. They might in their group chat on Snapchat, they might, but it's not something we talk about, when we're all together.
You mentioned Southeast. What are you seeing out of Coach Bullington's squad that's maybe kind of made them surge here towards the end of the year?
Well, they block and tackle well, and that's just the basics. They do that stuff very, very well. Their quarterback's left-handed. I think he's thrown for, looking at the updated stats, like 18 touchdowns this year. So me being left-handed, I have a feeling our coaches are going to make me do some scout team O this week. I got about 10 throws in my arm a day before it falls off like a Lego piece. But and he's fast. Like he's way faster than I am. So I don't know if I'll give our kids a good look. And when you think about their 4x1 team that set a record last year at state track, they have a couple pieces of that back. So they're fast, and we're not overly fast. We're not kidding anybody when we say we're slow. We mean it. We're slow. So we got to keep them in front and tackle and make them put drives together.
Is that something different out of Coach Bullington's squad? You're so used to seeing them run it, and obviously they had some great backs and a big line a couple of years ago when they won that first 9-man title. But is this a little bit different than what you're used to seeing out of the Cyclones, or just kind of the cycle of kids, you think?
I think it's a little bit of both. It's kind of the cycle of kids and who they have, and they're good at using the pieces they have to make something out of it. But Coach Bullington, you think back and they've always been a veer option team and things like that. And he's kind of changed with the times a little bit, running lots of different formations, some spread type stuff. And he's been doing that for the last couple of years, but also mixing in the option out of different formations. And they make it really tough on you.
We'll talk a little bit about how do you go about winning this game to get yourself on a nice little run going into the postseason, you think?
Well, first you got to take care of the basics. You got to block, tackle, and take care of the ball. And if we can do those things, we'll give ourselves a chance at the end of the game. But specifically, we have to be able to run the ball because they do a good job of seeming to take away our best run game. And we've got to find a way to adjust and run the ball for positive yards on first down, second down, and give ourselves some third down and manageables. We do have a good quarterback, but on third and long, they can just pin their ears back and get after him. So we've got to be able to put them in situations where we could either run or throw it on third down to move the chains.
Obviously, I think the whole state knows about Stu Lorwick, Hornstrom, some of the other guys. But have you been kind of pleasantly surprised by some guys that maybe stepped their game up this year that you feel like will kind of help you in the next couple of weeks when it really starts to matter?
Yeah, absolutely. Abe Serrano was a junior for us, and going into the year, at camp at Shadron, he really shined at camp, and we left there saying, we got to find a way to get him on the field. And we started him at a little inside receiver, and then Dalton got hurt, so he moved back to running back where he played in JV, and he just plays. He doesn't complain about anything. Half the time I don't know he's there because he doesn't talk. But he's been a great surprise. Another one is not necessarily a surprise, but Alex Sloan. He's just steady. He does everything we ask, plays on every special team. I mean, as a freshman, he was a long snapper on the punt team, and he was the smallest kid out there. And a couple of times he'd snap it and go in the fetal position just so he didn't get crushed. But he's come a long way, and, he's one of those kids that does anything we ask.
Well, Coach, it sounds like you got things going pretty well. Wish you best of luck against the Cyclones, and hopefully we'll catch you down the road in the playoffs.
Thanks, bud. Thanks for having us.